Welcome to America's Live Network. My name is Raoul Lowery Contreras, and we have a real treat for you. If you've never seen a half a dozen Hispanics in one place and not thought they were gang members, you're going to be pleasantly surprised today, because we at America's Live Network have assembled the finest, the brightest group of Hispanic lawyers, teachers, and others who are going to show you, by actually showing you, that they are talkers, that they are philosophers, that they are activists, and we're going to be doing this on a multi-philosophical level. In other words, we've got conservatives, we've got moderates, and we've got liberals or slash radicals in the case of one gentleman who we shall see a little later on. And what we are presenting to you is the new American Hispanic community, 50 million strong. Hispanic Republicans do exist. You're going to see some today. Hispanic Democrats do exist. You're going to see some today in this tape. You're going to see the total range of political philosophy. And that's our purpose here, to show you that Hispanics are not monolithic. They are not one-way thinkers. They don't have blinders on. They can think and do think for themselves. You'll see people here that don't agree with me, that are further to the right than I am. You'll see people here that are further to the left, and you'll see a couple of people that are also in the center, which is where I pride myself to be, a little bit to the right of center. But that's our purpose at America's Live Network, is to show America and the world that the American Hispanic community is made up of all kinds of people, great educations, doing well in society, and don't necessarily have to live for and demand an welfare society. There are some people who do. You will hear them here. You will hear that they want that kind of society. You will hear people that don't want it. You will hear people that love the film Atlas Shrugged. You will hear people that didn't like it at all. They will never know, those people, the joy of asking who is John Galt. So, be prepared in the next few minutes to be introduced to people who speak English better than I do, who know the law better than I do, who know Spanish better than I do, who are far brighter than I am, and better looking. But like the rest of the Hispanic community, we cover all the bases with America's Live Network. Let's get started right now. Micah Garry was the city attorney of the city of San Diego for a 4-year period, and during that period of time, he was, along with Rocky Delgadillo, the city attorney of Los Angeles, the two most prominent elected Hispanics in the entire country, outside of the federal Congress. Because you guys were the city attorneys for the #2 city in the country and the #7 city in the country. The highest ranking Mexican-American officials elected in the entire country. Micah Garry was very controversial. Now, Micah Garry comes a little bit to the left of me. If I'm right here, a little bit to the right of center, then Mike is a little bit to the left of center, and so we would probably call ourselves more or less moderates.
I think that's fair.
Okay, now, Mike Garry, you made a huge reputation nationally. Even the New York Times picked up on your Enron by the Sea thing when you became city attorney and you found out that the city had some serious financial problems. They became national news, and today, years after you were elected, the pension problems that you brought up here in the city are now national. Every state has them. The federal government has them. Everybody has the problems that you spotted here in San Diego. Tell us about them.
Well, in San Diego, there were a group of insiders within the city who rigged the pension to pay themselves $1-million pensions. They did it below the radar screen, so no one could see what was going on. The voters had no idea. The pensions weren't earned. And now those pensions, that little pension acorn that they created, is now $7.4 billion. There's at least $2 billion short. We don't have the assets to pay. The number of people that make $100,000 or more from their pensions went up 70% last year. It's drained away all of our resources from the city, from our streets, our roads. Our rec centers now are going to be closed 80% of the time. The libraries are going to be closed 80% of the time, all so that this small, relatively small group of people can receive $1 million pensions.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Esther Valdez. Esther Valdez is a practicing attorney who grew up here in San Diego, whose parents are from Mexico. Esther was born here. She went to the University of California, San Diego, UCSD, Which, by the way, Esther, I attended UCSD before it was UCSD.
Really? Is that a fact?
That's right. It was called the Camp Matthews Marine Corps Rifle Training Range.
Has a lot of history, the campus.
Yeah. So, Esther graduated from UCSD with honors and went on to the University of California Bolt Hall Law School, and she became an employment attorney and harassment attorney. She's going to be joining us as a host for her own show every day, Monday through Friday, God willing, and she'll be able to cover subjects that you can't even imagine. Now, keep one thing in mind. I told you that I'm more or less here in the political center. Esther is over here a little bit on more to my right. And so she's going to surprise you with some of her philosophies and some of her ideas and some of her ideology. It is generally the same as mine, but not quite. Esther, welcome.
Thank you so much, Raoul, for the kind words.
Okay, now, I'm going to pretend I'm a caller, and I'm going to call you up and say, Esther, thanks for taking my call. I've been watching this situation in Wisconsin very carefully because I am a public employee here in San Diego. Certainly. And I don't want anyone to take my rights away from me. Now, what happened in Wisconsin? How can the Republicans get away with what they did in Wisconsin?
Well, it's not a matter of the Republicans getting away with anything. It's the people taking back their tax money. The people, we the private employer, the private employee, are paying taxes to support you, the public employee. And we pay that, we pay your pension, we pay your salary, and now it's time for some fiscal economy. Now it's time to scale back because of the recession that we find ourselves in. We have, at least in California, 1 out of every 10 Californians not working. We can't support the tax burden anymore, and it's time for you, the public employee, to pay your fair share.
We're back with another new host that we're going to be featuring, and she's going to appear as often as her schedule permits, hopefully every day, Monday through Friday. She will also be a substitute, so you'll see her filling in for various people. Her name is Patty Newman. Don't let that throw you. She'll tell you what her born name was, her Christian name and all that. Patty was born in Los Angeles, raised in Tijuana, as I recall.
That's right.
And went to the University of Guadalajara and has a medical background and works in medical affairs today, running some clinics for her doctor husband. Now, one of the reasons that she's here is that, believe it or not, there is someone to the right of me. You already saw Esther Valdez, and she's to the right of me. So is Patty. Patty is a hotshot in the Tea Party, believe it or not. She's an officer in one of the Tea Party groups, which I'm sure she'll tell you about. And, of course, the Tea Party has proven to be very important. It's a significant factor. Everybody was laughing at him a couple years ago. I think Nancy Pelosi, then Speaker of the House, referred to him as AstroTurf. And lo and behold came the election of November 2010, and the Tea Party rose up en masse and bit the Democratic Party right in the butt. We won. The Republicans won 63 seats. That they hadn't done that well since 1936 or 8, since then, when they won 80 seats in reaction to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So what we have here is a person who has been in the Tea Party since the beginning and will continue to be, I guess, as long as the Tea Party is around. She's an elected Republican Party official, elected in the primary of 2010 to the Republican County Central Committee from the 66th District.
State Assembly.
And she coordinates all the work in her husband's medical clinics. She's here for a whole bunch of reasons. She was recommended, when I was recruiting, she was recommended by Congressman Darrell Iss's office. And when I first spoke to her, I discovered that she has this medical background, and she is up to Obamacare here in its details, right up to here. Therefore, we finally found somebody that knows what they're talking about. A lot of us can be against Obamacare for a whole bunch of reasons, general reasons, but she can tell you exactly why. So, Patty Newman, let me ask you questions like a caller would ask you.
Okay.
They already know you know something about Obamacare. And somebody's going to call up and say, Patty, how can you be against it when poor people need medical care?
Obamacare is a big scam. This is a large population is going to be thrown into a massive government program. So picture the Medi-Cal program or the Medicaid program nationwide. This is what Obamacare turns everybody into. If we go with I think the goal being a one-payer program.
Single payer.
Yes, this is where they want to take us. And you know, America has the best medicine in the world. If we do that, it will not be the best place to get your medical care.
Hola, Enrique Morones of Border Angels, and I'm here to talk about a topic that's very important to all of us. We have presidential elections coming up next year, and as you know, we're in the best of times, we're in the worst of times. We have situations happening around the world, lots of unrest, lots of tragedy. A lot of them are man-made, a lot of them are beyond our control. But we can control one thing, and that's who we're going to vote for president next year. I worked as a volunteer, not as Border Angels, but as a citizen of the United States on the campaign for Barack Obama. I have absolutely no regrets. I believe that he will go down as one of our greatest presidents, and it's an easy thing to say, especially with the previous person, because with the Bush administration, I believe that for 6 or 7 generations, we're going to be paying for those sins. The many mistakes that he has done, they're still not finding the weapons of mass destruction, but there's a lot of people that have died as a result of his politics, a result of his policies, a result of him not acting in a humane manner.
Mr. Morones, I'd like to pose a question to you that might be very interesting for our viewers. Do you think the Obama presidency so far has been a successful one? And if so, why?
Yeah, there's no doubt it's been a successful one, but there's tremendous challenges from the previous administration. That hole that President Bush put us in, it's going to take several presidents to get out of it. So it's a tremendously challenging time. But I have seen President Obama try to bring in consensus, try to work with both sides of the aisle. He has many faults, no doubt. He's got tremendous challenges. But he hasn't come through with a lot of his promises, and I'm upset about that as well. But I do believe that he's turning that ship around, and like he mentioned, it's not a speedboat, it's a cruise ship, so it takes time. We have the issues in the Middle East, we've had a lot of natural disasters, we have unrest within the country, some extremist groups like the Tea Partiers and so forth. And I think he's the right man for the right moment, but only history will judge. If he does a good job, because some of the challenges that are going to be upcoming are unforeseen. Of course, nobody knows exactly what's going to be taking place. But I trust the president. I am frustrated. I'm frustrated with some of the actions or the inactions that he's taken. But I believe that he's the right man, and I'm going to be voting for him again for his second term.
My question is, how can you even posit that this is a successful presidency? We have sky-high inflation, the highest gas prices we've seen in 4 years. Inflation's going up through the roof. The Federal Reserve is printing currency, which is causing the American consumer to consume more and more and our country is in greater debt. He still can't resolve the budget deficit with Congress. How can you even posit that this has been successful? Not to mention the fact he hasn't even met his promises to our Hispanic constituents. No amnesty and whatnot.
Well, I hope he doesn't give amnesty because the Hispanic community doesn't want amnesty. We want a pathway to legalization, which is a big difference from amnesty. But as far as the economic situation that you're referring to, I mentioned earlier, previous President Bush put us in a tremendous hole. It's going to take a long time, and he's fighting that battle, and he's going in the correct direction.
Olga Diaz is the first Latina or Hispana, or however you want to call her, she can call herself whatever she wants, elected to the Escondido City Council. Escondido is a city of about 100,000 people. It now, according to the census, is about 50% Hispanic, and she's the very first one. And there she is every week, sometimes on the short end of a 4-to-1 vote, but she's there, she's representing the community. She told me when we first met that the first time she ran, she had no idea what she was doing, and she almost won the first time, as I recall.
Running for office in Escondido was actually very much an accident in my life. I owned a coffee house. I was perfectly happy to just bop around my life. I had a degree in accounting, but you know, that's such a lifeless job that I left Pricewaterhouse and I ended up at Santa Clara University in a research department, and then after a few years I ended up owning a coffee house because it sounded so charming to own a small business. Of course, 8 years later, my brother has kept the business, and I've moved on to other things. But running for office really was something that I had never planned to do. I had always been a fairly responsible voter. You know, I read all of the campaign material for candidates, and I always made sure to vote. But getting myself on the ballot was an entirely different issue. And the reason I ran for office in Escondido in the first place was because there was some terrible, very anti-immigrant, divisive policies proposed by the city council. And up until that point, I didn't really know what a city council was, what it does, what kind of impact it had on me as a resident of Escondido. I had never paid attention to politics in any other place that I had lived before I moved to Escondido. So my attention was really captured by a council majority of 3 who represented something so opposite of anything I ever thought I could experience in California. Let me give you an example. When they pushed forward this policy, it was called a rental ban ordinance. Anybody who lived in Escondido and wanted to rent a place to live, whether it be a house, an apartment, would have to prove their legal residency in this country. And in a Latino community, we know that sometimes families are blended, not intentionally. It's not that anybody's a bad person, just the way that our communities and our culture have evolved. And so it made it very difficult to be Latino in Escondido and not be thought of as undocumented. And objecting to that kind of policy made us collectively lawless in the eyes of many. Like the Minutemen, there was no Tea Party at the time, but there were those roots. And so what I did was I ran for office. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know about precinct walking, fundraising, mailing material. You know, I had some pictures. I got a graphic artist. I winged it. And I did it on a whim. So in 3 months' time from when I got my name on the ballot, because I didn't see that there was another candidate I could support, I got my name on the ballot, and election day I came in 3rd, and I needed to be 1st or 2nd, right? So I was just right out of the money. And I just kept running. And so for the next 2 years, I did not let up. I didn't give up, because at this point now, I realized, in fact, it was Logan Jenkins was the first person who ever told me, he works for the Union Tribune. Actually, in our first interview, he said, do you know why it's important that you win? And I gave him all this stuff about, I'm going to change the world and fix Escondido and community and, you know, volunteerism and all this stuff. And he says, no. It's because you would be the first Hispanic elected in the history city. And I didn't know that. And so I hold the title, but I wasn't after the title. And it has made a huge difference. Again, I kept running. I won in 2008, the same year that President Obama was elected. He won his election in 5 minutes. It took me until 4 in the morning to overcome some of the voter results. And so, yes, I happened to be the first Hispanic elected in the city of Escondido in 2008.
America's Live Network will have all kinds of features in addition to the live talk shows. We will have scenes, and we will have interviews out in the field as much as possible. We will have cultural programming in the Hispanic link to show the community our community. Remember, 50 million Hispanics are now in the United States, and we will be the best known of those 50 million because you're watching us here on America's Live Network. Due to the technology of the 2011-12 years, we're going to be video streaming on the internet with America's Live Network. We're going to be podcasting. We're going to be have our website, in which all of our people will have blogs and their own pages, and we will have, for those who contribute financially and who support this effort, we will have links to their websites. So from the community relations standpoint, supporting America's Live Network with a grant, whether it be from a for-profit company or a non-profit institution, is not only worthwhile for the funder, the person, the contributor, but for the community as a whole. If you want to know what's going on in Balboa Park, you'll be able to find out right here on America's Live Network. If you want to know what's going on at the Port of San Diego, you'll find out right here on America's Live Network. If you want to find out what San Diego State or the University of San Diego or Point Loma Nazarene or UCSD are doing in the community, or what kind of concerts they're going to have, it's all going to be here, because all of the people who contribute to funding this America's Live Network will have mentions, will have their 30 seconds once an hour, whatever it happens to turn out to be. These institutions, will get their information out for the community to work with them on their projects, on their art museums or whatever it happens to be, art collections, football, basketball, it doesn't matter. Everyone's part of the community, but sometimes the community doesn't know what the rest of the people are doing. That's what they're going to be able to find out here on America's Live Network, in addition to the America's Live Network programming, they're going to have sponsorship by people that get their information out to the community. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.